Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is September the 16th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hopefully, you had a good one. Hopefully, the day treated you well. As for me, my day was good. But before we get into the day, let me go back and cover my last little birthday event, little situation. So, Monday night, after I was done podcasting, we did wind up going to see some family friends and have a birthday dinner, which was very cute, very sweet. I got to pick the menu, and the menu was very simple, very easy. Yeah, at least they seem to think so. I seem to think so. But sometimes it's just nice to have something really simple and basic, and then just really like have good ingredients and have it just really cooked well, right? But I wanted burgers, hot dogs, fries, and onion rings. That was the main entree. And then for dessert, I wanted a chocolate and vanilla cake with chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream or chocolate vanilla ice cream. I was really open with whatever. But they made it happen for me. Everything was cooked well, cooked to perfection. Very yummy. We even on the hot dogs, we got to have like our selection of just normal hot dogs, and also everything was grilled. Normal hot dogs, Chicago dogs, or like a chili situation, a chili dog situation. So I was in heaven, and it might have been like a Chicago chili dog, which would have been crazy. I don't even know if they do it all like that. I was kind of just awash in what I was learning and what I was about to eat, and I was just happy to. They told me like, oh, okay, like we got all the ingredients, all the components for like an actual authentic Chicago dog, and I told them, I'm like, look, y'all, I'm just probably gonna make these my way, was essentially just piling on all the ingredients and then just like adding some chili to at least one of the dogs and then one of the burgers. In total, I think I wound up eating like 2 burgers, 4 hot dogs, and like a bunch of fries, a bunch of onion rings, also that I covered in jelly and cheese. So yeah, I mean, I was in heaven. It was so good. It was so yummy. Everything hit. It was nice just to have a good time, with people who care about me, love me, and who I feel the same with. So that was cool. It was a bit of a smaller affair. Some of the people, were a little bit sick and under the weather, so I wasn't able to see everyone, wasn't able to see the full gang. But it was just nice. I mean, when I do the sum total on everything, I had 3 groups, for 3 friend groups, like invite me out to eat, hang out, chill, be merry, celebrate my birth. So I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to have all these people in my life, and the love, and just the good times. Man, it's everything. So yeah, I definitely wanted to mention that. But yeah, smash cut to today, the old Tuesday. And we were back in the swing of things, back at work. Work was not too crazy, we're still in that peak kind of vibe. And I heard even yesterday that things were crazy. I think we had like a late pickup situation for the trash. So, glad I dodged that bullet. That might have been the last birthday gift for me to get. But today was nice. It was overall cool. I had like one person come through and help out a little bit during the day, and it was actually at like a decent time to like cover a break. So I was like, all right, that's nice. Okay, everything's functioning well, going well. Post work, we went to the gym. Gym went well, no hiccups, no problems. Was able to get in, get out. Also too, I got to wear my new Dragon Ball Super shirt, which is kind of cool. I got that for a gift. That was kind of nice to rock that. But yeah, overall we had a good day, had a good weekend, good birthday weekend, I should say. I guess extended, right? But yeah, so overall Tuesday was good to me, and here we are, ready to yap about some news. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to that. I want to do my startup first and foremost, of course. So let's go ahead and get ready, boot up for that, and then we'll get into some news. Oh boy. All right. Our first story comes from CBS News. Luigi Mangione's state terrorism charges dismissed and United Healthcare's CEO's murder. Judge rules. The state terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, were dismissed Tuesday as he appeared in court in New York City for a pretrial hearing. Mangione walked into Manhattan criminal court shackled and wearing tan prison clothing shortly before 9:30 a.m. for the hearing on several pretrial motions. Members of the press and public packed the courtroom, while crowds of his supporters carried signs and chanted outside. When he entered, he appeared to look at the rows of public in the back very briefly, then stared straight forward. As he left, he raised his eyebrows in acknowledgement, once at the defense's first row in the gallery, and then again as he walked past the press and public. His supporters were later seen following his attorneys down the street as they left court. The 27-year-old faces both state and federal charges in the killing of Thompson, a husband and father of two, last December outside a Manhattan hotel. The 11 state charges included murder and terrorism. Excuse me. And the federal ones carry the possibility of the death penalty. His lawyers have been fighting to get the state charges thrown out entirely, arguing the parallel cases amount to double jeopardy. In his written decision Tuesday, Judge Gregory Caro ruled against their request. The defense had also asked for the two terrorism charges to be dropped, arguing they don't apply. Prosecutors, however, alleged Mangione's intent was to violently broadcast a social and political message to the public at large, which essentially they're saying because you were sending a message, that makes it terrorism. The judge ruled to dismiss both terrorism charges, murder in the first degree, and furtherance of an act of terrorism and murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism, writing they were legally insufficient. That is a assessment I agree with. I remember when we initially covered this, it seemed like we were going out of our way in a state like New York to, ratchet up the sentencing, or not sentencing, the charges, to get this kind of result of like, look, if we can, get this case, which we think, we're going to be able to slam dunk, we're going to be definitely able to like put a needle in your arm. We're definitely going to be able to put a needle in your arm, put you in like some kind of super max thing, handle you like a terrorist, treat you in like the worst way, give you the most severe punishment. But I just don't know. I remember saying I just don't really know or feel like this matches up. This really lines up. But kind of fast forwarding to the Robinson trial arrest, and we're going to get into that in the next story. But it kind of already had me thinking that like, oh, this is going to be an automatic thing from now on. Like if someone is going to be murdered, if there's any kind of messaging attached to it, then you're going to see a terrorism charge, and it's going to, stick. So I was happy to see that this isn't so much the case here. And now I'm thinking it might not be the case there for the, Robinson situation. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was no evidence presented to desire to terrorize the people, inspire widespread fear, engage in a broader campaign of violence, or to conspire with organized terrorist groups, Carl wrote. Here, the crime. This heinous but targeted and discreet killing of one person is very different from the examples of terrorism set forth in the statute. Mangione will still face second-degree murder and 8 weapons-related charges in the state case. If convicted of the top count, it carries a sentence of 25 years to life. He has pleaded not guilty. We respect the court's decision and will proceed on the remaining 9 counts, including murder in the second degree, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said in a statement after the ruling. The defense also wants to suppress evidence from Mangione's backpack, including a gun and a notebook, claiming it was obtained without a search warrant. Prosecutors deny the allegations and have asked the judge to force Mangione's lawyers to say whether they will pursue an insanity defense or introduce psychiatric evidence. The defense also wants statements Mangione made to law enforcement suppressed because his attorneys alleged officers failed to provide Miranda warnings and don't want non-eyewitness identification testimony at the trial, meaning someone who is not a witness to an alleged crime who makes an identification from the picture or video. The judge did not rule on any of those issues Tuesday, but said hearings on each will begin on December 1st. So this is big. We normally don't get into the minutia of this part of a trial, or leading up to a trial. But obviously, Mangione, made a lot of headlines. It was a very big situation, big true crime moment. So I wanted to kind of come and talk about this a little bit more. Like I said, just my thoughts on the whole thing with the terrorism charges being lifted. That's big because it just kind of goes to show it's like, look, you guys are going to try everything. We get that. But let's just right here off the top. This is New York. You're not doing that here. That's not how it's going to work. So I was happy to see that because it makes it more of a just what I think should be a realistic trial. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not a fucking judge or a fucking lawyer, whatever. But at the end of the day, it just did not seem like an actual, rational leap to say, okay, well, you killed this guy. And because we know you had these motives and intentions or whatever, or we just think this is so heinous, we're going to just ratchet this up to a terrorism charge. I mean, that's just what it looked like. That's what it felt like, at least to me. And I think to others as well. So yeah, to see that this has been kind of, taken down to no, yes, you did a murder. We're going to charge you for a murder. That is what we're going into trial about, not something more so. But then we'll still see because it is important to hear what's going to be the actual outcome of the backpack, what was found in the backpack. Obviously, I think what was it? The gun. They had the notebook, which I think essentially they're trying to, use as the manifesto stuff. But either way, they're trying to tie to him, ratchet things up, make things worse for Mangione. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be major whether or not that's going to be, admissible in court, as well as the non-eyewitness situation as well. So, for sure, we will see what comes in the future. But yes, let's move on, to Politico. Prosecutors will seek death penalty for suspect in Charlie Kirk assassination. The suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting was charged with aggravated murder, which could carry the death penalty if convicted, Utah law enforcement officials announced on Tuesday. Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray said the state is filing 7 charges against Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old arrested in the state's investigation into Kirk's assassination. Ooh, that kind of rolls along your tongue. At Utah Valley University last week. Those charges include discharging a firearm and obstruction of justice, and Gray said he intends to seek the death penalty. The murder of Charlie Kirk is an American tragedy, Gray said. Charlie Kirk was murdered while engaging in one of our most sacred and cherished American rights, which I think he was trying to say is free speech, which I think people on the right now are trying to say, oh, no, you can't do that. Only he could do that when he was saying the things that we liked. But if you're saying any kind of thing, you're expressing yourself about how maybe you disagree with Charlie Kirk, oh, well, you're actually a bad, evil person. Which I love that narrative. I love that. Robinson's political motivation for the attack exacerbated the degree of some of the charges, including adding aggravating factors to the murder charge, Gray said. Robinson made his first virtual court appearance Tuesday afternoon. Gray shared new details from the investigation into Kirk's killing, including details from interviews with Robinson's parents, text messages sent by the 22-year-old following the shooting, and items found in the search of his home. Robinson's parents told Utah law enforcement they'd seen him lean more to the left and advocate for gay and transgender Americans, Gray said. Robinson's father spoke to him after the shooting to urge him to turn himself in, and the two talked about Robinson's motive for carrying out the attack. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained, "There's too much evil and the guy," referring to Charlie Kirk, "spreads too much hate," which, I mean, I would definitely wholeheartedly agree with that statement. During the press conference in Provo, Utah, Gray read aloud text message exchanges between Robinson and his roommate, a transgender woman who was also in a relationship with Robinson. The messages detailed Robinson's thinking in the hours of the shooting, his attempts to retrieve the weapon he is alleged to have used, and his decision to turn himself in to the police. Gray said law enforcement found etchings on bullet cases in Robinson's home, similar to those found at the crime scene. It's also worth noting here, I wanted to make an aside, because we talked about Discord, right? And how Discord had made that statement saying, look, whoa, whoa, whoa. We actually aren't involved in this. Like, yes, there are messages related to this on Discord, but he did not plan this. This was not carried out in any way, shape, or form on Discord. None of the actions were conducted there. And at first I was kind of like, that's such a weird statement to try to make. I feel like you're kind of doing a little bit of flexing, a little bit of ninjutsu to kind of make this happen. But I understand a little bit better now, because essentially Robinson acted alone on this stuff. Then after the fact, he started talking to his friends on Discord and, kind of was being a little bit tongue in cheek about things, talking about things. You have the message, I think, with the roommate, talking about the gun or the rifle and everything like that. So these are all things that are post-acts, and therefore Discord is trying to say, look, we have nothing to do with it. No. But still, your app is being used by the assailant, right? In that situation, at least allegedly, right? So, I don't know. It's still a bit of a quagmire there, but I'm still not, like, holding Discord to the fire on that. I just thought that was, like, worth mentioning, because that was just some things rattling around in my head like a marble. Let's see. While the state's charges do not preclude Robinson from facing criminal charges, it's unclear whether the Department of Justice will also take action against Robinson. The FBI assisted the investigation, although FBI Director Kash Patel received some criticism for sharing details on the investigation, creating confusion about its status in the days following the shooting. So yeah, this has been like Kash Patel's like big trial by fire as a director, very much proving that he has not been up for the job. He's been kind of fumbling his way around. And look, as an amateur podcaster, I completely get it, but I'm not running the fucking FBI. So yeah, when I put my foot in my mouth, it's kind of like oopsie-daisy. When Kash Patel does it, it looks I feel like way worse. They definitely meme the fuck out of that shit. But yeah. So he's been on hot water. I think he actually had to get in front of Congress, got a little dragged. They kind of fucking clocked his fucking tea, if you will. I think the kids are saying that. But, I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen. But at the same time, I could definitely see a Kash Patel not making another year as director of FBI. Like, maybe it's time to just write another book, buddy. You know what I mean? Maybe get back to the kids' books. Maybe just say, hey, this has been my time under the Trump administration. Look at all the things I did. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's time to start thinking about that, because I don't think you were ever cut out for this job, buddy. I do not. But anyway, Gray suggested Patel sharing investigation details publicly could hamper the state's criminal case. As attorneys, we typically like to control that information to preserve an impartial jury and fair trial, he said. So that's where we're leaving that from now. But I have noticed, at least at this moment, I'm not hearing terrorism charges, which is kind of the thing I mentioned while we were talking about the Mangione shit. I thought that was going to be an automatic thing. I thought that's how we were going to get to this whole death penalty thing. But clearly, in both cases, you don't really need that. But we'll see. Once again, in this situation, we will come back to this. Of course, this is also another big story, big shooting. So yeah, wanted to update on those stories. Also, as well as the information we kind of read along the way. I felt like that was relevant too to mention. Though, I want to put a little note, asterisk. This is all stuff that's constantly unfolding, obviously. So, kind of like how we got more details in terms of like his conversations on Discord, also just specifically like with his parents. I was under the impression that his parents turned him in, but essentially no, it seems that his parents strongly convinced him that it's like, you need to turn yourself in. So, I mean, I feel like once again, these are things that are important, to kind of, I guess, get right for the record, right? I'm trying to do my best with that as always. But, yeah, like I said, we will be back to the story. And it gave me a nice little opportunity to talk shit about Kash Patel. So, I'll take that. See you in Valhalla, brother. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, our next story comes from Where is the Buzz? Now, this is a story it's come out of a couple of outlets. It's just hard to find an exact one. Also a bit crude now that I'm reading this. The overall headliner is from Yahoo Entertainment. There's nothing entertaining about this fucking story, I will add. But Our next one, let me take a water break here. But two men found hanging from trees in Mississippi on the same day. Okay. Mississippi is reeling after two separate but eerily similar tragedies unfolded on Monday, leaving families, friends, and entire communities searching for answers. Within just hours of each other, two men, one a young college student and the other a homeless man, were found dead, hanging from trees in different parts of the state. The shocking finds, one in Cleveland and another in Vicksburg, have rocked public confidence, stirred demands for openness, and rekindled bitter reminders of racial violence in the South. The initial tragedy hit at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi. At about 7:05 a.m., campus police found the body of 21-year-old university student Demartravion Trey Reed hanging from a tree by the pickleball courts. The report was confirmed by University Police Chief Michael L. Peeler in a press conference, stating no evidence of foul play had been discovered to this point. Asterisks, we'll get to that. The body of Reed was turned over to the Bolivar County Coroner's Office, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, and other authorities to aid in the investigation. I'm sorry. As authorities look into it as a suicide, speculation is everywhere. Social media has been abuzz with theories and outrage, some pointing to evidence of physical abuse on Reed's corpse. One viral message read, "Tell me, Trey Reed was beaten with 3 broken limbs? What the fuck kind of suicide is that?" Which I love that they didn't even fucking edit it, because that's real. Now, granted, that's obviously from a quote, but still, like, when you hear details like that, you go, how are we even talking and entertaining that this is a fucking suicide? Let alone those details. The fact that this is I'm very just pressed about the story. As a black man, I cannot envision saying, oh, I'm going to go out in this kind of way publicly in Mississippi, and we're going to actually float this idea first and foremost that it's a suicide. There's no foul play. I think that's insane. I think that's wild. Obviously, that's just my fucking personal opinion on the matter, but I'm glad I'm not alone in thinking that. Also, too, I didn't get this story from any kind of big headlining media outlet. This was a story that someone came up to me to talk about because they know I'm a news head. And I appreciate them for it. And initially they said, hey, I got this story from TikTok. And whenever I hear that, I'm always a little bit weary. I'm always a little bit suspicious. If that's the first time I'm hearing about a story, it's the first time you heard about that story, I go, well, computer in hands, right? But that being said, the person immediately said, it was hard to find, but I was able to find, hey, these are more details on the matter are coming from like an actual news source. So I was like, fuck. Like, and also too, This isn't like some kind of blast from the past and some new old phenomenon, right? Like, sadly, this is a thing that happens year after year still. I feel like it's definitely you predominantly, hear about these kind of stories coming out of the South, but they usually don't get that much coverage. They usually, they kind of come up as a blip on a radar. It is almost like a local true crime kind of situation, and people kind of forget about it. You don't even hear about any kind of convictions or any kind of fucking leads, any new evidence. It just goes cold and dies. So, in a way, I wasn't surprised that a story like this wasn't really making a lot of coverage, a lot of rounds. But I mean, we're talking in the same kind of thing where I'm supposed to have sympathy for a guy who just, yelled at people and called it a debate. We're supposed to have like flags at half mast and like have all this respect for this person. Well, meanwhile, not one but 2 people are dying, and it's just not making any kind of rounds, not making any kind of coverage. Oh, we're back to normal now. Like, since this is a normal person or whatever, some aspiring student, it's whatever. Who cares? And it's like, that's wild. That's a wild. It's just we live in. I don't want to say we live in wild times. They always are wild. But let me continue. Let's see. The tragedy loomed over what should have been a week of pride in Delta State. The university, having previously announced it would start its centennial observances on the same day, called off all observances and closed cases. Counseling services were available to the students and staff. Our community is deeply saddened by their loss, Delta State announced in a statement. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends impacted. Hours earlier, at 1:30 p.m., police in Vicksburg received an alarming telephone call. The body of a male was discovered hanging from a tree in a densely forested area or a densely forested area off the Ameristar Casino. The coroner identified the deceased as Brandon White, male. I don't like how the sentence is structured. I'm just going to read it as it is. The coroner identified the deceased as Brandon White, male, Corey Zukatis, 36. Zukatis is the person. I don't know where the Brandon part comes from. Let's go Brandon. I don't fucking know. Anyway, his death was confirmed by Warren County coroner Doug L. Husky, who said Zukatis had been discovered about 10:30 a.m. but released no further information. Little is to be learned about Zukatis' latter days or the circumstances surrounding his death. No evidence indicating foul play has yet been released by authorities, but the circumstantial resemblance to Reed's death, namely both men suspended from trees in the state of Mississippi within several hours of another, has the nation in an uproar. The two tragedies so close in time and space have generated huge speculation and bereavement on the internet. There are some voices suggesting the deaths might not even be suicides. One user commented, "Two young people lynched in Mississippi. Two children had their aspirations they had aspirations and a family. Police are already trying to convince us that this is a suicide." Another echoed the frustration. "Where's the fury over this? Where are the moments of silence? Where are the Instagram stories, think pieces, and flags at half-mast? These boys were lynched in 2025. Some advocated for uniting and acting. I think, excuse me. Think it's time to organize. It's been that time. Got to come together as humans. This shit ain't right. To their families, healing." So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where people are definitely, popping off on social media. I've seen this on my own personal feed, kind of after the fact, after I had the conversation with my friend at the top of the day. So I am glad that at least one way or another, people are sounding off about this story. People are pissed off. Because this shit's fucked up, and I don't want to, hear it, fall on deaf ears. You know what I mean? But that being said, I know that the wheels of justice can kind of move in its own cruel, sad way. And I fear that this is going to be a story that might have some traction right now, but, months from now, a year from now, years from now, we don't actually get anywhere with it. We don't actually see any justice for the families, for the victims. And not only that this shit happens again. You know what I mean? That someone potentially is lynched again. And that's a fucking just sad fucking reality that we are still living in 2025. It is not just a color, we're talking, potentially a creed, class situation. I don't know. We don't know. And also, I still have to say, even though I don't believe that either of these stories are suicides, that it is a possibility. You have to leave that open for sure. But I will say that it's unsettling. It's upsetting to see law enforcement just so quickly go, "Oh, well, we don't see any signs of foul play. This is just, we're going to be looking more towards a suicide first and foremost." And it's like, this is something so eerie. There's something so wrong about this. So, if I do hear any more details, I will definitely come back to the story. Once again, I appreciate anyone and everyone who comes up to me and talks to me about news. It is moments like I had today at work that are so key and so crucial to this whole fucking project, this process. And it helps me out a lot to kind of find stories that I didn't know about, but also prioritize stories that I go, "Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't talk about this," It definitely is a good, guiding rod, so to speak. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anyway, let's move on to our final story. But before we get into it, let's go ahead and take our last break. All right. Ooh. Our last story comes from CBS News. UN Commission concludes Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. An independent panel of experts commissioned by the United Nations Human Rights Council has concluded on reasonable grounds that the Israeli authorities and Israeli security forces have committed and are continuing to commit acts of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. In its report published Tuesday, the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, which was established by the HRC in 2021, said it had collected and analyzed evidence in relation to alleged human rights violations committed by all parties, in the Israel-Hamas war, which Israel launched in response to the Hamas orchestrated October 7th, 2023 terror attack. Isn't it crazy, y'all, that come next month, we will be 2 years into the specific part of the conflict. That's fucking wild. Today, we witness in real time how the promise of never again is broken and tested in the eyes of the world. The ongoing genocide in Gaza is a moral outrage and a legal emergency. Navi Pillay, chair of the commission, said at a Tuesday news briefing, "There's no need to wait for the International Court of Justice to declare it a genocide. All states are obligated to use whatever means within their power to prevent the commission of genocide, and so we urge member states to ensure accountability for any crimes that have been committed and prevent further crimes from being committed, not just in Gaza, but the entire occupied Palestinian territory." Now, Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar, called the report fake. I'm not reading this whole fucking quote. Essentially, he goes on to say, oh, you guys are just taking Hamas lies and making them fact. Let's not forget October 7th, essentially, is what he invokes, talking about, all the people who were killed that day, murdered that day. And essentially saying that it's like, that's just more important, which is the same song and dance. It is the same fucking prop that they put up every fucking time. Especially when the heat's really on and when it comes to this fucking shit, when we're talking about the atrocities that they are committing, we're talking about the fucking ethnic cleansing that they are committing, they like to, reference back to that focal point as if it justifies all of this, which you literally see in the situation with the UN saying, no, we're taking both of this into account. This doesn't absolve what you're doing right now, And they're just like, well, tra-la-la-la. You guys are Hamas anyway. Like, you guys are... No, what they'll say is you guys are, like, anti-Semitic. You guys don't fuck with us. You never fuck with us. It's that. That is most likely what's going to get wheeled out as they continue to do what they are doing. So, yeah, I mean, does this change anything? No. But it's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about, as always. I mean, Gaza is always worth talking about. But it is a shame that it's taken this long. So I think it's another reason why I wanted to talk about the time in that regard, that we are coming up on 2 years of this fucking shit, officially. And, we just now have this saying of like, we are officially saying there is a genocide. And it's just crazy along the way how like we literally have daily fucking footage and coverage of the shit, despite all of the fucking barriers that Israel has tried to put up, saying, no. You can't have any official journalists here unless they're from Israel, unless we okay them, unless we put them in under our fucking escort and detail, whatever the fuck. No eyes on this shit. And then if there are any eyes in terms of like people who live here and who are actually reporting it, we'll kill them. And we'll call them Hamas. And we'll say that they're Hamas terrorists too. Like, despite all that, you have this daily coverage. You see this shit every day. So, like, once again, to really be like, oh, really now we're going to say it? That part is almost frustrating in and of itself to me, right? But it's something, and you got to take it as that. It's at least, you at least see some group here not sticking their head in the sand like we have in fucking America. But I was listening to some fucking discourse on this shit on the BBC, And just the idea that it's like, oh, this is so divided. This is such a divided conversation. It's like, no, it's fucking not. It is the U.S., it is Israel pretty much in fucking lockstep on this shit, and everyone queasy as hell. Everyone writhing over, like, this is terrible. This is beyond the fucking pale. What are we doing here? It's pretty much that. That's pretty much the split here, the division. So, as we close out this episode, obviously this is a bit sad, very sad. But like I said, we're talking, and also I got to mention this update too. Like I said, this shit is continuing. They are, I think, moving or probably already in the center of Gaza City at this point. I don't have any kind of daily update in terms of like any kind of casualties or anything like that, but I do believe I heard, at least as of last night, this morning, like confirmation of 50 people being killed. So, I'm sure that is a lowballed number, or at least low as of recording now. It's probably gone up, as it continues to, unfortunately. But we will be back to this story and, the other stories mentioned in this episode, but that's going to be the episode for today. If you would like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts. Whatever platform you like to listen. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. All the stars are appreciated. It means a lot. But truly, I just appreciate you hanging out. I know this is a bit schlocky. I know it's a bit sloppy, but I really appreciate your support. It means a lot. Even if it's just you lurking and just being chill and letting me chill with you. I think it's pretty cool. So, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.